Welcome everyone to this lecture on environment setup. Before we begin showing you how to set up the course environment, I want to quickly explain the advantages of what a virtual environment is and why we use it. Essentially, Python libraries can change often and unexpectedly, and minor changes can cause code to break, which can impede the learning process. So for a real example of this, while I was filming the course, the Seaborn Data Visualization Library changed a call from distplot to distplot, essentially removing that single t. And suddenly, all those function calls to distplot suddenly had warnings on them that they were going to be deprecated into the future. And what we really want to focus on is learning about data science and machine learning, not these very subtle or minor library changes, when really all the concepts behind machine learning and data science and the algorithms are going to be set in stone by now, and we can use them regardless of what function call changes happen into the future. Again, we're very fortunate here that we're learning things based off mathematics and algorithms and fundamental intuition, rather than something like a web development framework that could have a very major change in the future. For our particular case of everything we're learning about, the changes that are upcoming in the future for all the libraries we're learning about are going to be very subtle and very small. But what we don't want to do is have to completely rewrite our code every time a library sends out a new update. So how do we fix this? Well, what we can do is create a virtual environment to hold the specific versions of Python libraries for our particular use case. And so what we've done is we've created a Python virtual environment file for you. That way you can follow along with the videos in this course, and you're going to use the exact same library versions that we use. And what's really nice about this is you can activate or deactivate this environment as needed, or edit libraries in the environment in case you ever want to upgrade yourself. So this allows us to balance between functioning code and keeping up to date with the latest library changes. We can also have multiple virtual environments for different projects. So you can have a virtual environment to follow along with the course videos, and maybe your own virtual environment where you keep everything up to date and make subtle changes as they come in to the latest updates of those Python libraries. So let's actually start by downloading the environment file. There's two ways of doing this. If you check out the right-hand side, you should see a download direct from Udemy, where you can actually check the supplemental resource for this lecture, and you'll notice the file is called requirements.txt file. I've also provided a backup Google Drive link to the same requirements.txt file. Either is okay as long as you're downloading the same file. Just call it requirements.txt. So go ahead and download that file and save it to the downloads folder or desktop folder, essentially just somewhere where you know where it is. And now we're going to show you within Anaconda Navigator, we can create an environment, install from the requirements.txt file all the specific library versions, and then activate an environment or deactivate an environment. We'll also explore that requirements.txt file a little bit so you can see the inner workings of what's going on. Okay. Go ahead and download the file and then open up Anaconda Navigator. I'm going to go to Anaconda Navigator now. Okay, here I am at Anaconda Navigator. What we're going to do is on the left-hand side, go to Environments, and then you'll notice I already have a bunch of environments set up for the variety of courses that I teach. What I'm going to do is create a new environment by importing it. What we can do here is you can either create a brand new environment and then manually add in the libraries, or import from the requirements.txt file that you just downloaded. Click Import, and it will bring up this window here, and you can decide on a new environment name. You can call this whatever you want. For example, you can call it New Environment, and then what we're going to do is click on this little folder here, and then the first thing you have to do is over on the right-hand side, make sure you change the file type you're looking for from a conda environment file to a pip requirements files.txt file. That way, it will correspond to the text file that you just downloaded. In my particular case, I saved this file under desktop, and I have right here requirements.txt. So what I'm going to do is simply open up that file. But before we open it, let me actually show you what is inside that requirements.txt file. If I open up that requirements.txt file with Notepad, you'll notice it looks something like this. It's actually a very simple file. All it's doing is it's just telling Python the library to install and then the specific version. So you could easily come back and edit this requirements.txt file in case any libraries are updated by the time you're watching this, Or if maybe you want to downgrade and use a specific library version because it matches what's working at your company, for instance. So you can always edit this file as you see fit or add in more libraries. So I just want to show you that it's actually really easy and simple to set up. You just type in the library name, 2 equal signs, and then the exact version you want to install. And then you can just list them. And when you create the environment from this file, it will go ahead and install all of these. So these are all the versions of the libraries we use throughout the course. So I'm going to exit this for Notepad and then open this up with the import environment. And recall that we have to actually say pip requirements files on the bottom right. Go ahead and open this and then hit import. And when you're importing this, it's actually doing 2 things. It is both creating this new environment and it's going to install all those libraries. Keep in mind, this can take a while, especially if you have a slower internet connection. What I'm going to do is fast forward in time until this is done installing and creating this environment. All right, now that it has finished installing, you'll notice that it lists a bunch of libraries available inside this new environment. Keep in mind that there's actually a lot more libraries shown here than what was in that environment file, and that's because many of these libraries that we had in the requirements.txt file have their own prerequisite libraries that are automatically installed. So just saying Jupyter in the requirements.txt file also installs Jupyter Client, Jupyter Console, Jupyter Core, etc. So that's why you see so many different libraries here that weren't specifically shown in that requirements.txt file. So once we have the new environment ready to go, we can come back home and then see the applications available on new environment. So if you click here, you'll see a much shorter list than all the environments I have, but every time you start up and follow along with the course, you want to make sure that you change from base root, which is the base environment, the default one that is, and then come back here and make sure you're setting up the new environment. So whenever you're following along with this course, make sure that you have applications on and then the new environment you created selected. And then what you can do is you can go ahead and click here on Install Jupyter Notebook. And then what that's going to do is it's going to install the Jupyter Notebook system directly in this environment that we set up. And this is just to make sure that you understand that Anaconda Navigator has all these tools available to you that you can install on then any of these environments. And this directly connects the development environment with the environment you just created. And you can do the same thing if you prefer something like Spider or Jupyter Lab or Orange 3 for working with. But what we've done is you'll go ahead and just click Install on Jupyter Notebook with your application in that new environment. And then what we're going to do is after this is installed, let's open it. So you can see here, once it's installed, it moves over to the left. It's ready to launch. Hit launch, and this will open in your browser. This is now opened in our browser. Let's make sure that our environment is working by saying select new, Python 3 notebook, open up that new notebook, and you should be able to say something like import pandas, do shift enter, and if that worked, that means you're working with pandas and it's in this environment. And then you can say pandas dot underscore version underscore underscore. In fact, this is actually 2 underscores here, so keep that in mind. And if you run that, it should report back exactly 1.1.2. Again, this is the version that was installed in that requirements.txt file. So again, if I bring over that requirements.txt file, you'll see now this pandas version matches exactly with what is shown here. Okay, so we are ready to go. We have our environment set up, and we specifically have connected our development environment for Jupyter to the existing environment. All right, that's all we need to know for now. I'll see you at the next lecture.